The following video features photos and video footage of diverse people working in a variety of occupations and environments. Throughout the video, key words and phrases appear on the screen to emphasize main points. Early on in the video, and then again at the end, the logos of the Mid-Atlantic ADA Center, Transcend Incorporated, and the National Institute on Disability, Independent Living, and Rehabilitation Research also appear.
A diverse workplace is good for business, and smart employers understand that disability is a key part of the mix. That's because people with disabilities bring unique perspectives on how to solve problems and achieve success. They can also offer insight into a large and expanding customer segment. But how can employers ensure their recruitment activities are inclusive of people with disabilities? That's where the Practical Employer and the ADA Successful Hiring video series comes in. It focuses on the Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA, and how it applies to recruitment and hiring. It helps employers understand and meet their responsibilities under the ADA and diversify their workforce through increased disability inclusion. This is the second video in the series, How to Make Sure Your Outreach and Application Process is Accessible to People with Disabilities. Employers sometimes wonder if they are required to make extra efforts to recruit applicants who have disabilities. The ADA doesn't require such affirmative action. Rather, it simply requires that your application process and recruitment activities be accessible to people with disabilities, and that reasonable accommodations be provided if needed to ensure equal opportunities to apply for or perform a job. Under some laws and regulations, however, employers, such as federal government agencies and many federal contractors, do need to engage in affirmative action. In other words, take proactive steps to recruit and hire workers with disabilities. So, it is important to know if such a requirement applies to your organization. There are many things you can do to make sure your recruitment and outreach activities are accessible and will lead to successful outcomes for your organization and potential employees. To start, you can identify yourself as an equal opportunity employer in job announcements. Specify qualification standards, essential functions, location, and working conditions of available jobs so that applicants can determine if they are qualified and interested. Share information about the accessibility of facilities where recruitment activities, such as job fairs, interviews, pre-employment tests, or worksite tours, will take place. Advertise job openings with disability-related organizations and connect with your state's vocational rehabilitation agency to reach qualified candidates with disabilities. Provide contact information for applicants to make requests for reasonable accommodations they may need to submit an application or participate in recruitment events or job interviews. Ensure that your website, including any online job postings and application web forms, are accessible and compatible with assistive technologies, such as screen reading software used by many people who are blind or have low vision. The Internet has become a major gateway to employment, but this gateway may be closed to qualified job seekers if web content is not accessible. There are a number of resources that can help employers ensure their virtual doors are open to all candidates. The Partnership on Employment and Accessible Technology, or PEAT, is one such resource. Visit peatworks.org to find an array of tools to help ensure your e-recruiting technologies are accessible. But what about more traditional methods of recruitment? Job fairs and community events are still popular and effective, but also need to be accessible and inclusive. Imagine that you're searching for a job and are excited about an upcoming job fair in your community. But when you get to the job fair, the doors are locked. Many job seekers are already inside, and others are arriving and being admitted, while you remain stuck outside. If imagining this scenario makes you feel a bit frustrated or anxious, you have an idea of what many disabled job seekers experience when they try to interact with employers at inaccessible job fairs. Even if people with disabilities can get in the door, the physical layout of the space may be crowded and cramped, making it difficult for people using wheelchairs, scooters, or other mobility aids to get around. Maybe there's no navigational help for blind job seekers. Or maybe the sound level is so high that people who are hard of hearing or who have sound sensitivity cannot carry on a professional conversation. These issues can prevent some people from effectively engaging in an event. They can also cause employers to lose out on potential great hires. You may be wondering, who is responsible for making accommodations if a job fair is hosted by another organization, such as a university or a community organization? Shouldn't the hosting organization be responsible? The hosting organization certainly may have obligations to ensure access to its event, but you as an employer also have an obligation to make your recruitment activities accessible. Start by finding out about the accessibility of the location and facility from the hosting organization. Let the organization know that accessibility is important to you and encourage them to hold events in accessible locations and set up accessible spaces. Ask if they have any policies or procedures related to access, such as staff on hand to help guide or direct attendees who are blind, or assistive listening devices available for use by attendees who are hard of hearing. Though you may not have control over where some job fairs or other recruitment activities take place, you can make sure that you don't conduct your only recruitment activities in inaccessible locations. It's good practice to participate in activities in different locations and make sure that as many as possible are accessible. Within a particular facility, make sure you set up your own space so that people using wheelchairs, scooters, or other mobility aids can get to your area. Think about your materials and how you will communicate with people who are deaf or blind. Do you have materials in more than one format, such as print, large print, and digital? If on-site interviews will be conducted, is there a quiet, accessible space where those can take place? What if a deaf job seeker wants to have a sign language interpreter in order to speak with you? Do you need to provide one? It will depend on a number of factors, beginning with the length and complexity of the conversation taking place. Are you conducting in-depth interviews? If so, you may need to provide an interpreter. On the other hand, if you're only meeting briefly and exchanging written information such as brochures and resumes, then you may not need an interpreter. If you think sign language interpreters will be needed, you may want to talk to the event organizers about the possibility of a shared approach. It's possible that other participating employers will have similar needs, and some job fairs include presentations or workshops as well. Perhaps the host organization and other participating employers would like to collaborate in having interpreters available. Finally, keep in mind that how you interact with job seekers with disabilities is just as important as providing accommodations and making sure that your activities are accessible. There are a number of good resources on disability etiquette, including the United Spinal Association. Visit their website at unitedspinal.org and look for disability etiquette in their resources section. Visit us online at adainfo.org or contact us to learn more about the ADA and how to attract a wider, more diverse talent pool through inclusive recruitment, a key component of successful hiring. You can reach us or your regional ADA center by calling 800-949-4232.